What's going on, everybody? Got a special episode for you today, and that is a video version of my podcast show called Origin Stories. And today we have on the show Paul Hudson of Hacking with Swift. And the reason we're doing a video version, because normally this is just a podcast exclusive, I don't do videos of this stuff, but I happened to be in London giving a talk. Paul was there as well, so we said, you know what, why not do this podcast in person, film it, and put it out there. So if you're not familiar with my podcast and the show Origin Stories, basically, it's a show where I bring developers from all over the community just to talk about like how they got interested in programming, when they started coding, how they got their first ever job, because I'm always fascinated by everybody's path to becoming a developer. As many of you may know, I didn't write my first line of code till I was like 32 years old, so I took a different path. Other people have been coding since a child. So there's many paths to becoming a developer, and that's what the show Origin Stories is all about. So without further ado, let's dive into the video with Paul Hudson of Hacking with Swift and hear about his origin story. All right, here we are, as you can see, Hacking with Swift Studios. I made it to Bath. We just got done walking around Bath, right? Not Bath. Bath. Anyway, we just got done walking around the beautiful city all day. Here we are, though. Paul Hudson, this is your origin story. Welcome to the show. Introduce yourself real quick. Let them know who you are, even though they already know.
So my name is Paul Hudson. I run Hacking with Swift, as you can see behind you, which is a website dedicated to teaching folks Swift at a reasonable cost and, of course, bang up to date. I do lots of books about Swift. I speak about Swift. I spend all my days noodling around in Swift. I've got pretty much Swift in the brain.
Nice. So this is the origin story. We'll just get right into it. Like I said, they already know you, but they may not know where you came from. Like you were just this magical oracle that started teaching people Swift. So we like to go back to the very beginning here. When was the first time you wrote code, and what was it? And what like turned you on? What sparked the curiosity?
So I'm one of those terribly boring coders who got into code at a very young age. You know, where you sort of... Back in the old days, well, you know,
they had computers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we used to rub sticks together. When you would buy MS DOS for your computer, you'd upgrade from DOS 5, DOS 6. It would come with a manual, and it would walk you through how the system worked and what the commands did and so forth. At the back was a reference to do more advanced things, including batch file programming and similar. I remember. That was all I had in the early days. The intro sliver to the computing science was there. I'd read that again, and use it again to try and build things. And we subscribed to magazines back then. There's a particular magazine called PC Plus where you'd get monthly tutorials passed out to you saying, here's what's new in the world of Object Pascal or Visual Basic. And I used to get software from there and try that out. I remember there's a particular tool I used to use called Visual Basic Custom Control Edition. It was VB4 or 5, I forget how old it was a long time ago. It was basically a really cut down version of Visual Basic for Windows, where you could drag and drop things and write code. It was cut down because you'd only show one window. You couldn't show any more than one window.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, super limited. But that was all I had, so I was really trying my best with what I could do. My main outlet, though, was some software, which was not coding, called the Games Factory.
Okay.
And it was a drag and drop game maker. And it was, for its time, it was remarkably advanced. You could make some really fun games with it. And, I used to make games for that about my friends, mostly, poking fun of them, whatever. It was great fun. But it forced you to think programmatically. When this happened to this, when this happened to this, to this. It wasn't code, but it was programmatic thinking. I made lots of that. I learned, actually, that Louis DeHoe also was a big Games Factory fan.
Oh, okay.
So it's interesting how it gets you into that idea of making stuff early on. And then it kind of kicked off for real when I was about 16. My brother went to university to do computing science, and he got one of these things from Microsoft where you pay a small amount of money, like £100 or something, and you get student editions of their software. He got Visual C++, he got Visual Basic, he got Visual Fox Pro at the time, other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he wanted C++, and I thought, if I can finally have Visual Basic for myself, I can have my own real copy. And I got this thing, VB6 at the time. I could write programs at 16. I could finally do as much as I wanted to freely, and it was so much fun.
Do you remember what you built that very first... When you finally got that software, what was the first thing you built? Do you remember?
No idea. No idea. But at that point, I'd already written lots and lots of things. but they're all in one screen because you couldn't go more than one screen.
So back then, again, I say this a lot on the show, if you're learning now, you have YouTube videos, you have websites, you have Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
You did not have that back then. So were you just learning out of books, magazines, or how did you, learn?
Yeah, so magazines were really important back then. You'd wait for a month for things to arrive with more information.
Was it like, were they tutorial type stuff?
They were tutorials, they were tutorials.
Okay.
They were, here is a program in C or C++. And you read it through, and I didn't actually have a compiler at the time. I'd read it through and mentally try and understand it. But it's a very different problem we had back then. The scarcity of material was the issue back then. Whereas now there's the opposite problem. There's too much material. Where do you start? So
exactly.
there's no easy way in this one,
Right. You didn't need 100 days of C back then.
It wasn't even a thing,
Right.
We're just about, when I was 16, we finally got internet in the house.
Wow.
So there's a real turning point for us.
Yeah. What? Because I remember having the internet back when I was like 12 or 13. So similar thing.
Yeah.
So did you? Again, you've been coding since a young age. Did you know for sure when you went to university it was going to be computer science, or did you study something else?
By that point, yeah.
Yeah.
When
you said your older brother had already gone, was that influential?
It certainly helped, I think.
Yeah.
He dropped out, actually. He did not become a billionaire, sadly, but he dropped out. He didn't enjoy it. But I remember, even at 16 thinking, I won't do coding, I'll do something else.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Right.
But then at 17, I was massively into coding at that point. And from between 16, when I finally got my first real program system, plus the internet, things changed at the speed of light. I worked so hard coding. I was doing lots of PHP, lots and lots of PHP, lots of JavaScript and HTML and similar stuff, making websites. And it was a huge thing for me. So I finally could. I had the internet now. I had resources now. I could download these things and start using them. Open source stuff became a real thing for me. And it meant that suddenly the world's open. There's no limit anymore. It's not like one screen. It's do whatever the heck you want anymore.
Right.
So then, by the time I hit that 18, I'm like, computer science is a no-brainer. I'm going to do that for a degree.
For sure. So you run through the university computer science degree. Do you remember how you got your first ever job out of school, and what job was that? Was it hard to get?
In coding?
In coding, yes. Was your first job not in coding?
No. I worked while at university.
Full time or like an internship?
We don't do internships really much in the UK in the same way. We have paid internships, but anyway. But it was a Christmas job, I think, originally, my first real programming job, and it was at a local telecommunications company. They did software for telecoms. They actually had telecoms hardware as well, and they wanted someone to come in and do JavaScript coding.
Sure.
And it was simple stuff. It was just basically to make the site better. So I'd come in and make their site. They'd give me someone had made some Dreamweaver code.
Yep.
I'd make it better. I'd make it not Dreamweaver. I'd sort of pull it apart and rewrite it into better code and make things like puzzle games go on their site and similar. So it was a really easy job. It was only like 3 or 4 weeks.
But that was while you were at school.
Yeah, I was at university still. Yeah.
So again, I'm not sure how the culture is. You wouldn't consider that your first full-time job.
No,
your career. When did your career start? I guess was.
So really, I did a 3-year computer science degree, which is normal here. Okay. We don't do 4-year degrees; we do 3 years degrees. So that first year where you're studying philosophy and French and English, or whatever. You don't
nothing to do with your major.
Yeah, correct. We don't do that. It was straight to your major. 3 years of not major in the UK, and I didn't enjoy it. I had already.
You didn't enjoy the computer science?
No, because I'd already done it all.
Oh, so you were ahead of it.
Yeah. So in the UK we have multiple bands of learning, and at 16 you do your exams, first exams, and you can leave school if you want to. I'll become a mechanic, forget school, whatever, leave. You then have 2 more years of specialisation in 3 things.
Okay.
And I did computing science and English and psychology, because I could do. And then finally, at degree level, you do the full specialisation in one thing. I had done this computing science bracket here, 16 to 18, and a lot of folks hadn't.
Right.
So they were repeating things in their degree level I had done already some time ago. And I know what linked lists are. Sure. I know what binary coded decimal is. All those fundamentals I'd already done.
So were you learning on the side to advance, or were you just kind of hanging out, chilling that year? Okay.
Constantly.
You didn't take a year off?
No, I was constantly coding. We had this thing in the first year. It was a simple thing, make a website.
Okay.
I got 25% score out of 100.
Yeah.
But they flunked me, basically.
But you just said you were already ahead of it. You already knew it all.
Right. Okay. But they flunked me because I used the HTTP equivalent char set tag at the top saying it's UTF-8.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was actually Windows ASCII at the time. And they said, only people who use computers like Dreamweaver would use that. It's supposed to be a hand-coded exercise. You've clearly cheated.
Oh.
We'll mark you down. And I'm like, What has happened here? Right. I started making this site. I made a brilliant site. It was full of great jokes about my teachers mostly. But anyway, and they marked me down for that because I dared to have more advanced HTML. So that was a real kick in the teeth.
Yeah. So that's cool. Again, so let's bring it back to the first career. Like, how did you apply to like 100 companies?
That's what I was saying. Right. No.
Yeah, how did
it basically, I hated my degree. I didn't enjoy it at all. And by the end of it, I was just skipping classes. Mm-hmm. I looked recently, a few years ago actually, I had to submit my exam receipts, the trail you have, to become chartered engineer, to say, here's my proof of my graduating. Mm. I looked in the back of my thing saying you graduated. I looked at my actual exam scores. I missed some final exams. I didn't even bother going to the final exam. I'm so confident in my abilities, I'm skipping this. I've had enough now. Right. I'm bored of this. I actually left in April. We finished our schooling in June. I left in April, missed the final exams, and I started working. I just left university, got a job full time. Did
you still officially graduate? Or
I've graduated with a upper second class degree. Because you work over the years beforehand. It's not like all in the final exam. I graduated. Of course, I graduated. But I didn't bother going to some of the final exams. I was so screwed as I gave up. Yeah. I walked into a job in April of that year.
Did you already have it lined up? Obviously.
I interviewed. They said, come and join us.
Nice.
And it was great, and it paid very well. It was in middle London, actually, next to what is now the Apple office in Regent Street.
Yeah, we were just there.
2 years ago. 3 years ago. It's just behind that in Hanover Square. I worked there doing web stuff for 2 whole years.
Nice. So how do you transition to? Because you did publishing for a little bit, right?
The screen's all black.
I think that might be the screensaver. Maybe.
Cool. Technology. Oh, sorry, Sean. I have another section here. Yeah. An intermission while I type in my password because clearly having my Apple Watch isn't good enough.
The password is 12345. It's the same
I have
password.
the same password on my luggage.
Yeah. All right, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it'll edit it out. Maybe it'll be funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say, part of the reason why you like to write and stuff and all that is because you did publishing for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So how do you transition from? So I don't even know the answer to this. When you were doing the publishing work for the magazine, are you still writing code at that time, or are you just full-blown writer?
That's how I got there in the first place.
Yeah.
So I worked for this company in Hanover Square in London, next to Oxford Circus in London, doing web stuff, doing PHP full-time. So I'd done stacks of PHP at that point. I was very experienced in PHP and HTML and JavaScript and similar, and Visual Basic for some reason. And they said, okay, we need a web person to come and do our website for us. So I joined there full-time. And it was fine. It was a good job. I learned there were some brilliant people around me, some really, really great people around me who were happy to teach me stuff, which was fantastic. Very grateful for that. And after a year or so, I was getting a bit bored. PHP is interesting, not interesting, right? I started reading this magazine about Linux called Linux Format.
This one right here?
That one there. You see on brand. And they ran tutorials every month about C, this kind of thing I read when I was at school.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, hey, you aren't doing a PHP tutorial, would you like one?
Yeah.
I said, sure. I wrote one for them. It turned into a monthly thing. Did that for a whole, I think, year or so before they finally said, listen, actually, we're hiring someone. Do you want to come and work for us full time?
Yeah.
As an editor. So it wasn't actually a full editor. There's multiple levels of editor. Mm-hmm. I said, yes. Mm-hmm. Went there. They are based in Bath, where I live now.
Right.
So I haven't left.
So how does this transition, because I think a lot of people may have known you did publishing in the past, but
yes.
So PHP, publishing, websites, how does the magic world of iOS come into your life? When do you discover that? What makes you say, oh, I want to do this?
So I was doing magazines full time for 8 years, from 2003 to 2011 or so, approximately, very roughly, doing Linux stuff. And it was fantastic. I loved the job very much because it's easy, bluntly, because you're having great fun writing about things you like.
Right.
What's cool right now? Oh, it's Zen virtualization. Oh, it's Java, whatever it is. So it's whatever interests you right now. You write about that thing. So you're always interested in what's going on. You travel around the world. I've been to the US or Japan or around Europe and so forth, interviewing my geek heroes. I've had dinner with all of Larry Wall's massive family. I've met Rasmus Lerdorf or Guido van Rossum or whoever I wanted to meet. I could go and talk to them, interview them, and for the magazine, which is great. I enjoy it very much. But in my spare time, I was always coding because once you've got that bug to code, it never really goes away. So I've written software extensively for Windows using C#, for Xbox using, again, C#, for Android.
I'm actually curious about that because during I don't know if it was your talk or I think it was the live Swift Over Coffee at the conference. You had mentioned you had made games for Xbox 360.
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt your story,
No,
but I was curious about that. Like how you actually wrote like some of the indie games there, like on the Xbox.
So do you remember you were an Xbox 360 person,
yes,
right?
I was Xbox Live. Didn't they have their like arcade?
Yeah. Do you remember? No, wait, no, not quite. There's multiple levels. Do you remember the original Xbox experience?
Xbox 360 or Xbox
360.
Okay, because I didn't jump on the Xbox train until the 360.
Right. Yeah, 360. There was it the Blades?
Yeah.
And then they made the new Xbox experience,
Yes.
NXE.
Yeah.
When that shipped, they had a new thing called Xbox. What's it called? Indie Games, something. I forget what it was. But anyway, there's multiple levels.
Yeah.
I did that. I went in that level.
Okay.
And it was really good. It was so much fun to work with. What an amazing platform Microsoft made there.
Mm-hmm.
It was all DirectX 9, I believe, from memory. It was all blazingly fast. They had a platform called XNA, which was an Xbox DNA, I guess, where you would just say, hey, draw a sprite to the screen, and it would use DirectX, Direct 3D behind the scenes to be lightning fast. You'd use Visual Studio 2005, roughly, on your laptop and use wireless debugging straight to the Xbox.
Right.
It was a beautiful, amazing, fast experience. Even though I actually had one core to work with, or 3 cores, I only had one to actually to be used with, but it was still blazingly fast. So writing games with that was so much fun, and I made a lot of money. It was great. I shipped some games with that, and it was just
nice. How many
a
games?
lot of fun.
Like a handful? Or
I think I made maybe 3 or 4 in total, but I only shipped one.
Gotcha.
Because I wanted that one to go in, and it did really well. Because it was when the thing launched, there was only like 50 games on there to start with.
Yeah, I remember.
So you're there, and everyone buys your game because they're curious.
So you were on the launch thing, like
Yeah,
you said.
Yeah. I remember. So the game I launched was a game I'd already written for, cunningly, Windows Mobile, like the tiny little crappy early Windows phones.
Yeah.
And I ported that, because that wasn't on any way XNA, that was all rubbish.
Right.
Windows Forms. I ported that to Xbox 360. And to do that, I had to make a number of wrappers and shortcuts and stuff. And one of them was, here is my exactly right shader, activate it, done. And I remember the day before the NXE shipped, a crashing report came from Microsoft saying, we've tried your game, it's crashing.
Right.
Press the home button, press cancel, back to the game, it crashed every time. I'm like, okay, that's strange. The problem was that this shader activation was being done exactly once. And when as soon as you left the game pure experience, it would reactivate their own shaders and come back to the game and go nuts again. So fortunately, someone MS, because it's C#, it's not really machine code, decompiled my code for me, figured out the problem. You have to activate this every time just to make sure. Got it launched. So it was day one. I remember it was the stress of getting it in time, and that last minute crasher. It was a nice little scare there for me.
Maybe that's a little foreshadowing. You seem to be there on day one for a lot of like platform launches, so maybe we'll talk about that. So that's a good segue right into the iOS platform.
Yeah.
How did you discover that? What was it obvious? Because I always like to hear about this time frame when iOS first came out. Because I was just a consumer back then, but as a developer, a new platform coming out. Like, how exciting was that? And did you know right away you wanted to be a part of it?
It wasn't exciting for me at all. I remember being distinctly unexcited.
Really?
I used Macs at work because I was doing magazines. So we all had Macs, and I was using, since like 10.3 to 10.2, sort of OS 10. And I remember saying, here's a phone, isn't it amazing? You do something. Well, can I make apps for it? Nope, you can't.
Oh, that's right.
Then I'm not interested. I couldn't care less. I made apps for Windows Mobile because I could have it in my pocket. I still have the device I made. The original device that I made apps for. It probably still runs if you're lucky. Plug it in and see it works. And it's a Windows Mobile, device, and I could hack on it and take it around with me. And that was important to me. I didn't care how bad the UI was. I wanted the portability of my software.
Yes.
And when I couldn't do that for iPhone, I'm like, I genuinely couldn't care.
But a year and a half later or so.
Yeah. So a year and a half later, I applied for the early access release of the program, got accepted for that, got the SDK through, and I remember just looking at it and going, oh my God.
And is that a good oh my God or a bad oh my God? Bad oh my God.
Bad.
Okay.
Having seen the real highs of XNA on C# and Xbox, going to the first iPhone SDK, iOS 2 SDK, and I remember seeing the glass buttons that were big.
Yeah.
A trademark iOS thing. I think, wow, how do I do that?
You can't.
It's a picture of a glass button, a bitmap that just stretched, and that's rubbish. I don't know why. What you get instead is this white, hideous, rounded rec style, which they've fortunately ditched since then.
Yeah.
I remember being horrified, and of course, then you see Objective-C. You're like, well, table view, number of rows and sections. Oh my goodness me. So the combination of the shortcuts taken, like the launch image, we don't do anymore, but launch image was, screenshot your app, to make it look like it's launching faster.
Right,
It had the fake glass buttons, and I thought, this feels so fake. Backed up by a language I was not attracted to at all compared to C#, which is very, very mature and very good at the time. Was a real shock.
Yeah. So you didn't make any apps during the Objective-C era? You kind of jumped on board?
No, I did. My first app, in fact, shipped 10 years ago this year. And it's Objective-C. I remember, it was iOS 3, iPhone OS 3, sorry. My wife just bought her new 3GS. She had a 3G, got 3GS.
Sure.
It was now clearly going to stay. This is not going anywhere. This is clearly working. I had to bite the bullet and learn this platform. So I did. I got a train to see my grandmother in the north, about a 5-hour train journey. No internet, of course, back then. They did it on the trains.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to make an iPhone app. So between Bath, where I live, and Preston in the north, where she lives, I taught myself Objective-C and Interface Builder and Xcode. There were different apps at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Learned how to do it, and with no internet, it was a lot of silent screaming going north. There's train up there, trying to get it to work. But I ended up with an app I could ship, and that was 10 years ago today.
What was the name of the app, or what did the app do?
The app was one of my interests at the time. I already made it for Windows Mobile. I ported it to a different version. But I ported the idea to iPhone. It was a language learning app to do flashcards, so you'd sort of see English on one side saying hello. Mm-hmm. And the other side would have Latin and Japanese and French, whichever many languages I was interested at the time. So it might have, buenas in Spanish or salve in Latin, whatever it is, right? But you see the English one word, and try and guess all 3 or 4 languages on the other side.
Right.
And you check the ones you want to learn. I want to do this one, this one, this, and this one. So it's a multiple learning language app, and it was called Flashzilla, and it was turned down by Apple.
Denied.
Well, denied, because it had the word Flash in its title. Mm-hmm. I still had the email from them, because I kept it because it's denied for being called Flash, which is obviously a bad thing at the time. But also because it was dear first name, your app name. And I said, well, what are the reasons? And they couldn't tell me. And they ended up saying, just resubmit, please. And we did, and it was fine. But it was the first taste of bad app rejection experience. Yes.
But that app's been on the App Store for 10 years. Still doing very, very well?
No? I didn't touch it.
What's the app that's doing very, very well? I thought you had
I do have absolutely very well. That was the first of many apps.
Right.
I actually ported from there. Oh, sorry, the dog comes to say hello.
And the screen went black.
Oh, yes, and the screen went like, you come on screen, you dog. She might have come for a treat. Is there any treats back there for the dog?
I don't see any.
Oh, Luna, we took the treats away. Sorry, doggy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was the first of many. I actually ported my Xbox game. To
this is Luna
from the live streams. I ported my Xbox game to iPhone as well, and by that point it had been through Windows Mobile and Xbox.
Oh wow!
And now iPhone. It was manky as anything. I actually wrote it in Objective-C++, so I could use OpenGL without having to rewrite my code. Because my code, I was using C++ exclusively at that point.
Yeah.
My main language was C++.
She's done.
Yeah, had enough now. I was doing C++, so I ported it using the easiest way. Here's C++ code. I could put it on the iPhone like that with a tiny. I remember being not careful about it, but a tiny layer around the C++ or Objective-C, just to handle like touches began. Call my C++ API straight away. Exactly. Get out of Objective-C land, get into C++ land. So at least I could get with basically to get that to work. And that came next. I shipped an app for the iPad. I remember it was there before release. I didn't even have an iPad, and I made an app for it because I think I could.
Yeah.
And they were coming. I was doing like one every week or two at that point.
Wow.
Just getting them out there, just trying things out.
Yeah. So let's fast forward to the Swift era a little bit.
Yeah.
So little preface here, and I don't even think Paul realizes it, but this is going to be a quicker episode because my train leaves at 5. And,
dear me.
Yeah. So we got about 10 to 15 more minutes probably.
Okay.
So that's why if you feel like this is fast-tracked and rushed, it's because we're trying to squeeze this in. But anyway, so let's fast forward to the Swift days. You said you weren't excited when iPhone and Objective-C came out, mainly because Objective-C and you couldn't write apps for it.
But I did master it. I made 110 apps for Objective-C. Plus some massive apps for companies.
That's a lot.
One of the apps I made for the iOS 7 era, just before this launch, was for iBeacons. And that ended up being used by Apple, by GE, by Xerox, by Autodesk. I've written so much. But it's that hurdle. Going from between iOS 3 and iOS 5, I wrote so much Objective-C code.
Right.
But that initial launch over the hump,
Yeah, and I wasn't insinuating like that you didn't do anything. I wanted to try to tie these together that, you weren't excited about the iPhone and Objective-C at first.
Correct.
But now, okay.
Pre-iOS 3, I wasn't interested.
Sure.
After iOS 3, I went completely crazy for
Gotcha.
it. I wrote so much.
So I want to hear about, was there excitement when Swift was announced? Or were you just like, eh?
I don't really remember. I remember, because I knuckled down immediately. I got the Swift reference guide, and I sat and read it at my desk. I read the entire book, start to finish.
Yeah.
And then started posting questions about it straight away. Saying, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean?
Right.
So it wasn't. I don't remember being excited. I just remember being very, very keen to get on with it.
Right.
Because
did you feel like, or you knew it was going to be a thing? Like you knew this is what Apple was going to like?
No.
Well,
I knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be the language.
Yeah.
There was never a question of that. Apple made that pretty clear.
Right.
This is the language we write for the next 20 years. I said from day one. So we've always known it'd be the language.
Yeah.
But I had no idea it was coming. From my perspective, I remember Objective-C getting better and better and better. Saying, we don't have to have synthesize anymore. Mm-hmm. We can have these other things. Properties are much nicer now. Great. It had a future. It felt like it was going somewhere.
Right. Out of nowhere,
Swift comes out. We had Arc at last. Objective-C. It was great. Then Swift, which is fine. I wasn't in any way sad.
Yeah.
I have a lot of time for Objective-C. I still write it now and then. I have to use our projects. Broadly, obviously, for everything Swift if possible.
Right. So let's kind of rotate to the origin story of hacking with Swift, right? Like, obviously, there was no hacking with Objective-C. That wasn't a thing. So why Swift? Why hacking with Swift? What sparked the idea to create this website and start creating all this content?
Well, I'd always had books. I've done books for a long time. My earliest book is 2003, 2004 or so, for O'Reilly, and then some with Pearson as well. So I've done books for a long time. And obviously I have the journalistic training behind me. I've done 8 years of magazine stuff, so my nature is to write books, write stuff. And there came a point where I'm kind of bored at work now. I've done all the interesting jobs. We're in maintaining software at this point. It becomes less interesting. What can we do to take that further? And I thought, I'll write a book for spare time. So I wrote a book. I started writing it the year Swift was announced. It took me obviously a while to write. It was quite large. And it wasn't originally free. I used to charge the original book originally.
Is this the original Hacking with Swift
book?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which it still exists online, but now it's on free. It's free. And I wrote it up, put it out there, and hope for the best. But it actually builds on an older formula. I did this series in C#, and it was published in the newsstand. I still have a copy somewhere. It was called Paul Hudson's Programming Academy. It wasn't me publishing. I wrote the words, and the publishing house published it.
Yeah.
And it was C#. It was the same sort of thing. Here's a game. Here's an app. Here's a game. Here's an app. And it's written for C# for Linux on SDL. Quite an obscure platform, but it meant that it was all free to use. But the concept's the same. It's just taking that and saying what's that in Swift.
Right.
And it seems to work quite well, obviously.
So when you started it, did you imagine it would grow to be what it is today, or was it just like a fun little project, or was that always the plan?
So it wasn't the plan. As you know, I try and tell folks as often as I can that luck has played a massive part. Being at the right place in the right time, not through your own necessarily work.
I would say, can you expand on that a little bit? When you say right place, right time, are you talking about Swift being a new language? You were there already?
So today, if you look at folks who are writing about Swift, how many had done Objective-C? How many had shipped apps for Objective-C? Had that existing background of knowledge? I had, since iPhone OS 3. So I had this wealth of knowledge, thanks to Objective-C being crushed into my head. I'd been to Dub twice already. So I had some backing in Apple. I was in a good place to do or write stuff. Plus I had all this writing background behind me. So I was a trained writer. Every month for 8 years, put 130 pages out of content. So I was trained to write stuff quickly and efficiently and structure them in an interesting way. So this sort of nexus of can write, has background. Oh, by the way, it's a new language as well. I thought this is the right time to do it. I'll do a book about this.
Awesome.
So I started from there, really.
No, I think that's great to talk about too, is how you may think of some of your previous careers. Like a lot of people might think that being a writer might not help you as a programmer.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you combine things like that, you never know what kind of ways you're going to combine it in and what can come of it.
It's astonishing how many times I've gone back to old code and thought, this is finally useful. You're going to hit the big time now, my friend. Because I've been noodling around before something, and now it's useful. And that's happened so many times. It's remarkable.
Nice. Well, as a wrap up, do you have any, what are your future plans for Hacking with Swift? Where do you see it going in the next 2, 3, 4 years? Anything you can reveal?
There's so much I want to do. It's more about time. I can get done in the time I have. I know folks would like to see some sort of subscription model where they can get regular, fresh content made. I'm uncertain about that. It's proven problematic. My brain isn't flowing with that terribly well so far. I'm running my first live conference this year.
That's right.
And that's and that alone shows me the direction I want to be going in this year, which is that it's a charity event. So you come along, you pay a ticket price, you learn Swift, you meet folks, yes, but you also contribute to a wider good cause.
Do we know what that cause is yet?
The problem is that there's tax problems.
Okay.
I need to donate to them in a way that's efficient for them to receive the money.
Sure.
So it has to get approved by their board and their accountant.
We can't say it.
Can't say. I'm also working on I'm not sure if it's going out, but I guess soon, hopefully not. Probably
a couple days. I got to get back, edit, and
Oh, I see. Well, I can't say the other thing then. I don't really.
Well, I mean, I can also put it out whenever I want. So if you want to share it, if you don't want to share it, that's fine. But if you want to share it, I can wait to put it out.
I don't want to spoil it. I want folks to be surprised what I'm working on and interested. But there are other important charity events I'm working on right now that I want to raise money for good causes because, better or worse, we have this platform and we want to make sure we're using it as the best way we can. So,
for sure.
Hopefully that it's gone through the initial green light stage of being approved by a board. It's now got to go to the accountant/legal stage. To get it all signed off.
How long did this all take? Like how long did this process?
So this the current thing I can't talk about. I started planning in September last year.
Wow, so 6 months.
It's been bounced around a few times trying to get things nailed down. It is problematic because when it's a company, it's like, hey, we made some money, great. But as who was it? Michael Moore in the US did a stunt once where he tried to donate $100,000 to GM, I think it was.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
They couldn't take it. Because the tax implications of accepting money to charity is like we can't do that.
Yeah.
The same is true of charity. They have their own problems in reverse. They're handled so strictly and so carefully, which makes sense. Of course, it does. So hopefully soon we'll be able to talk more about that. So I can't say about that. I can't say there's an event happening, which is July this year. It's going to be fantastic. I am working on a new book separately, which I hope we'll be announcing around that time. A subs thing may or may not happen. I keep trying to work on a translation thing. I've had a number of folks contribute to translating Hacking with Swift to other languages. Getting that live proving quite difficult. But I keep working on that. It's taking my time up my head. Obviously, it's a big day coming out April the 1st very soon.
It's true.
I'll have some plans for that, I'm sure. So yeah, there's a number of things simmering away. But
awesome. Well, that's going to wrap up the episode. Appreciate you coming on the show and everything you do for the community and taking me around this wonderful city of Bath. It's beautiful. Bath. No.
Bath.
There you go. You're waiting for Paul's American accent? There you go.
Wait no more.
Bath. No. So thank you, Paul. And that's going to wrap up the episode. We'll see you next time.